fun day because, Tim, I see you almost every day.
Yes.
And sit like 10 feet away from you, but I never really talked to you about
Yeah, no.
things other than emergency deal doctors.
Yes. I'm a very, I'm organized to a certain extent, right? Like, I'm as organized as I can be with what I do, right? But I always, the only time, I feel like the only time we ever talk is I'm like, oh no, something's happening. How do I get out of this?
Is this legal?
Yeah,
Can
is
I
this
do
legal? Also, there's a crazy person involved. How do we deal with this?
Do I call the police?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
So, no, and I love like being able to just help put out fires and things. But when we decided to start doing a podcast and filming, one thing is I really wanted to inspire other folks to be entrepreneurs and get into business. And I watched you over the last couple of years, just, your business take off and you work so diligently. And, I had some folks in the other day and they were talking about how they were so successful was that they came into the office every day.
Yep.
And I'm not going to say that it's true to everyone, but typically your age demographic getting into this industry doesn't show up in the office very often.
Yeah.
So it's unique to see. And I know when I got into real estate, I was 22 and I was in the office every day because that was just what I was told to do.
Right.
You come in.
Right. You show up, right?
You don't know what you're doing, but
Yes.
you're going to show up. But I feel like you had a plan. Like you knew what you were going to do. And
yeah. I don't know. So a plan, I've never been a planner. My wife makes fun of me because I'm so bad at planning. Like our Valentine's Day, it's always a mess. Every year I know it's going to be a mess because I'm not a planner. And Valentine's Day you have to plan for because there's no reservations on the day of.
did you end up cooking?
No, I got us a reservation the day of, but it was an absolute miracle and I had to beg for it. Okay. So planning is not something that, I don't know, planning is something that I've always been pretty bad at because I'm a doer. I want to get stuff done and I want to be in the moment and I want to I want to grind, right? Mm-hmm. But I think you're right to a certain extent. I had a plan for not exactly what I was going to do, but for how I was going to push myself. I think when I got into real estate, I had no clue what I was going to do. I had no clue how it was going to look, but I knew that I knew a couple of things. I knew that I had a really strong work ethic that I had developed over 9 years of competitive distance running. That instills, you can't help but instill discipline and hard work within yourself when you're going through a sport like that. So to me, I think Jason was asking me, one of our principal brokers here was asking me, like, why do you do you want to, he was like, why do you work, 12 hours? Why do you stay at the office so late? And I was like, hey, I used to run 120-mile weeks in 110-degree weather. And this is just like that, except I don't want to die the whole time. Yeah. I'm not like gasping for air and needing water the whole time. So I had some discipline instilled in me, but that was it. That's what I had to work off of. But I knew with my work ethic and with my desire to achieve and my desire to succeed, that was going to carry me to where I wanted to go. Believing in myself, right? It's kind of another way of looking at it. But yeah, so I came in without, an exact plan of how it was going to look. But I think it kind of comes back to what you said at the beginning, and that is showing up, right? And I do show up it's my goal to be at the office every single day. Now, thankfully, I've gotten to a point where there's appointments that take me out of the office, right? Which is a good thing, yeah. But I still want to be at the office as much as I possibly can. And it comes back to this idea of showing up. I think for young and old alike, showing up is the most important thing that you can do for your business, or you can do whenever you're trying to accomplish a goal, is just showing up. And then that's the number one step, because if you don't show up, you have no chance to succeed. But if you do show up, there's at least a chance that something good is going to happen, or you're going to get something out of it. And I'll give you an example. And the other day, I showed up to the office and ended up getting a phone call from a buyer who, it was just kind of one of those things. It's kind of like hitting the lottery, right? Yeah. But the buyer wanted to purchase all cash, and it was a really nice property, and it ended up being, if it goes through, it'll end up being my highest sale ever. And I just showed up to the office that day. That's all it took. And so I think it's funny because I do see a lot of people trying to find the secret sauce and trying to find like they try to find, different ways, all the ways to be successful, and they try to find some secret method. And I don't think there is a secret method. I think it's hard work, and I think it's showing up.
I would agree, and I think a lot of agents work part-time, but they're not really working another job. They're just working part-time. And one of the things that I'm glad you mentioned like the distance running, because I knew you were a runner. I knew that was something that you had done for a long time and were passionate about. And I just had made the decision this year to run a half marathon with friends, which is nothing compared to what you're doing. But
I mean, that's half marathon's pretty legit.
At 42 years old,
Sure.
It will be kind of like a big thing for me but the reason I wanted to do it was not so much about the run itself, was I wanted to have something that was very disciplined in the training process of it. And like this morning, I did not want to get up at 5:00 and run. It was the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I forced myself to do it because my original goal for it was to discipline myself to do something that was hard. Like
Right.
It was picking something that was hard and doing it, because I really truly believe that's what makes us successful, is like when we have that discipline to keep pushing to do, making those phone calls, getting the rejection. I know I've been here when you've got some rough ones, and, not everybody's always in a good mood, but you're okay because you're like, I know you can do hard things, and you know that you're going to be fine at the end of it, and you're not going to die.
Totally.
I used to, when I started, I had come from like a medical background, a bad day in medical background, and somebody died. Here, like people used to be, everybody said, I don't say as much anymore, but they'd come in, I had a horrible day. And I'm like, and I would always say, well, did somebody die? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, it's not a bad day.
It's not a bad day. It could be worse.
Everything we can fix that I cannot fix, but
Yes.
I can fix most of the other stuff. So, but you had mentioned, like training and doing your running. And I've never asked you, but I talk a lot to folks about like having a strong morning routine. I know you come into the office, I know you stay late. What do you do to like prep yourself for the day? Because you have a long day usually.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a little bit all over the place because with the profession that I'm in, you could be here, there, and everywhere depending on the day, right? So for me, I think that's actually one of the areas that I am really struggling with and trying to be better about is planning and is preparing myself, because I have this mentality. I'm 25 years old. And it's actually a mentality. I was a communications major. We would learn about this stuff. Is when you are this young, you actually have, what is it called? Something about like invincibility syndrome. You don't think that. You think you're invincible. You actually have, like, if somebody asks you, do you think you're invincible? They're going to say no. But you actually subconsciously don't think that the outside world can affect you. You don't see a future where you do get tired and you do get worn down, you do get beat down, you might burn out, right? So those are not things that, I've really faced before. Those are things that I've just brush it off, right? Yeah. So for me, that's always been just something that kind of naturally came to me. Is like, okay, get up, go to practice, do your running. Okay, get up, go to work, make your phone calls, do your thing. So for me, that's kind of the next step for me, is actually starting to develop, how do I plan for tomorrow? Because traditionally, I've never been a person who has a really set schedule. This is my calendar. I put this in the calendar. It's like, no, I just put it in my head. That's a terrible thing. That's a terrible way to run things, right? No, we do not want to hear that. And so I think that brings up a good point, which is a self-assessment, right? Mm-hmm. That's the area that I actually need to work on. I'm really good at getting up and doing the work. I'm really bad about knowing exactly what time I'm going to be getting up and holding myself to, this is how I'm going to prepare for the day, and this is how I'm going to have these meals then. I mean, right now, I like to tell people that I'm intermittent fasting. It's not on purpose. It's not intentional. Yeah. So actually the planning for me has been the part that I've really started to, how can I plan for the future? How can I plan for the next day? And actually something that my wife and I have been working on, which has been really helpful so far, is at the end of the day, we sit down and usually we're just getting ready for bed, or we're in bed and we're about to turn off the lights and go to sleep. But she'll ask me, okay, what happened today that was good? What happened today that was bad? What are you going to do tomorrow to fix what happened today? And what are you looking forward to tomorrow that is going to be a good thing that's going to move you forward? Really simple questions. And sometimes the urge is to just kind of be like, nothing happened good today, or I don't know, it was a work day, whatever, right? Once you dig into it and you really start to think about it, okay, what did go well today? What did not go well today? What did I fail at today? What can I improve on tomorrow? What am I really looking forward to tomorrow? That's not putting something on a calendar. That's not saying, okay, I have a 9 a.m. appointment here. I have a 10:30 appointment there. Those things are easy to do. You should just be able to write those down. That's not difficult. But what I do think is difficult to do is mentally getting yourself in a headspace where you do feel ready to wake up the next day and you do feel ready to work hard the next day and not get bogged down by the little things the minutia that we get lost in, but can be the real detractor from success. I think one of the biggest things that I see with younger agents, because I'm around a lot of them, is they give up very easily. They meet a little bit of resistance. It's not exactly what they thought it was going to be, and they lose their momentum.
Yeah.
And
it's uncomfortable.
Exactly.
And they don't want to be uncomfortable, so they're like, I don't really want to do that.
And
we avoid it and avoid it and avoid it.
Right.
That's kind of one of the things I tell the agents, like, if you really want to be successful, you got to burn those boats, like you got to take away the option of not doing it, because if you don't succeed, there's no try, there's no option of not succeeding. You have to make yourself do it. And that's why, for me, like committing to that half marathon, if I just said, I'm going to start running every day, I'm like, I could make it, be like, well, I don't have to run today. But if you have a deadline of where you're going to need to be able to run a certain distance, right? You couldn't just not train. Right. Because you're not going to be able to get up and just do it, Right. And so having that deadline. So I like to tell agents, like when they're trying to plan, like if you're not a planner, I get, there's a lot of very successful people who are like, I didn't really have a plan. It just happened. I just did really good things and worked hard. But is that you have a benchmark for where you want to be, because then it keeps you from procrastinating.
Oh, yeah.
So
no, and that's one of the big driving forces is I don't necessarily have it all dialed in. I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I ever received was from a gentleman that he's like basically the head of like athlete development at George Fox, and I was asking him questions about the future, right? The big, questions about the big future, right? And he goes, you don't need to have, he goes, think about it like buying a house. When you are looking for a house, you don't know the exact color of the house that you're going to have, or the exact finish of the countertops, or the exact flooring type, or the exact whatever, right? If it's got grass or if it's got turf in the backyard, right? Yeah. You don't know these things, but you do know that you want a nice house with 3 bedrooms, and you want to be living there for 5 years so that you can trade that house up for a bigger and better house. Yeah. That's what it is about for me. I look at my goals and go, I want to sell at least 25 homes this year. I know that I have to close at least 7 deals a quarter to make that happen. Mm-hmm. I think if my math is right. Yeah, that's right. seven at least, but 6.5 essentially, right? Yeah. And so it's, not getting caught up in like exactly what has to happen, but having a vision is the biggest thing, for me is I have a vision. I told one of my best friends, I had no basis to go off of. I had absolutely nothing. There was no reason for me to say that this could be something that I could possibly achieve. But I told him before I started real estate, while I was like getting my license, I said, in 5 years, between 5 to 10 years, I want to be making $500,000 in real estate. And he was kind of like, okay, good luck. Yeah, have fun with that. Yeah, right. I'm on pace for it. Yeah. And so I didn't know how that was going to really happen. It's gotten a lot more clear to me as the years have gone by. But I had the vision and I had the hard work. And you kind of figure out the rest as you go. You do. It's like you can't get a perfect roadmap for this industry, because like even I try to schedule my day. Everything's in the calendar usually, and down to sometimes the minute. Like I have back-to-back calls, and I just I only have 2 minutes. Sometimes I tell you guys that, because it's down. Like today, I was kind of freaking out because I was running late because unexpected things happened, and so same thing happens for
agents all the time is that, you'll have somebody that wants to go look at a house and they can't wait, or you have a deal that starts blowing up and they want to terminate and you have to deal with it right then. But one of the things that a plan helps is that you have your non-negotiables that if you don't do them at 9:00 when you plan them, you have a space where you're going to make sure they get done.
Yes.
And just being consistent with those non-negotiables, whether it happens at 9:00 or at noon, and maybe you give up something to make those happen, but you never let your non-negotiables not get done.
Never, ever let the non-negotiables go. I think some people don't understand what a non-negotiable is. I think some people think a non-negotiable is more of a routine, and it's not. Routine is great, but sometimes people deviate from their routine. A non-negotiable is something where you can literally look at another person and say, I will not go to bed and finish my day until this has been done.
Yeah.
That's a non-negotiable. I will refuse to negotiate with myself and say, oh, well, I'll do 2 tomorrow. No, I'll do 1 today. I'll do 1 tomorrow. Yeah. This is non-negotiable. Yeah. I think that's really important. I had a question for you because you are training for this marathon or this half marathon. And maybe full marathon after. And that's always the step that goes next. It's you spiral towards it.
You do have. I know somebody told me the other day. She's actually she's a big agent down in Texas, and she said you're gonna love it. And she said, and when you run your full, because you will run a full, she's like, you're going to get to that halfway point. You're going to be like, I don't know, I was crying last time because this time's so easy to just get to half when you've got a full to do. So probably in the future.
You'll get there. My question for you, though, is this, because you've been training for this, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people get, I don't know, what was it, like they quit after 2 or 3 months of their going after their goal? I think the reason that they quit is because they meet a roadblock or they meet a challenge or a hurdle, and it's too hard for them to get over. What keeps you going? What keeps you motivated? You've I'm sure met challenges and hurdles already training for this.
Yeah, I'm not very far in, and I had a lung infection earlier this year, and that was the big thing I'm still trying to get because my lung capacity is really struggling. Like I was for 2 months, like couldn't get air. But for me, like even this morning, it's my accountability partner. I have somebody that committed to hold me accountable, and they're on a cruise right now, and they were up at 5 a.m. this morning doing their laps. Nice. And they made sure I was too. Nice. They checked in, and literally when that alarm went off this morning, and I had drank alcohol yesterday, I was not in the peak state to go run, but I was like, I have to do this. This is the time I have today to make this happen, or it's never going to happen. And I actually heard voices like Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins saying, you got to do the hard things. And so I just got up, didn't think about it. You just get up and you got to go. Same thing, like you can't say, oh, I didn't do my 3 today, I'll do 5 tomorrow. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. You really can't do that when you're training. And that's why I thought this would be a great discipline thing, because you have to stay on a schedule, and you do have to discipline some other things. Like you can't just be out partying every night and then get up and do it, because you can maybe do that a couple times, but let me tell you, when you get in your 40s, you're going to have to start playing.
I don't know. At 25, I'm like we can't do this anymore.
We don't bounce back. Year before last, I was running 100 miles every month. That was my goal, 100 miles every month. And I could fit that in, because I could give or take a few there, but this is a little more structured to really get that in. But you really have to have something that motivates you. Yes. And the best thing for me that I found is always having an accountability partner. Yeah. Like whether it's your, and in this industry, whether it's your manager, your desk mate, your friend that's in the industry, your lender. I had a lender partner when I had great managers and stuff, but I didn't have a coach back. That wasn't a thing. You didn't have a real estate coach back when I started. And my lender was my accountability partner. We would make calls every single week together, and we closed deals together, very consistently all the way through the downturn market, because we both had no other alternative that was what we were going to do. And that's why I became a coach, because I knew how helpful it was. And then when I got, kind of became a thing where you could hire an accountability partner, I did. And that's when my business grew, because I didn't and it wasn't that I didn't want to do the work anymore, because sometimes it's not that you don't want to do the work, because you're not afraid of hard work. but it's sometimes the accountability to do the scary things and take the risk, because when it got to the place where I had to spend a lot of money to open another office or to buy an office, like you need somebody to help encourage you a lot. It's really hard to do on your own. And and even though I don't like to think of you all as on your own, because I want to be here for you and your managers are here for you and you have, colleagues around, it is your business. You are kind of alone. Like it is, you are in charge of yourself, and we might tell you what to do or what you should do, but you have to do the work.
When you burn the boats, there's nobody coming to save you. Yeah. It's you. You are on an island. There's a difference between being on an island with a team that supports you and being on an island completely alone. Yeah. So you have to find people that are going to be on that island with you and support you and cheer you on, but nobody's going to sit there and do the work for you.
If you don't like that story, I don't know if you heard the story that saying came from. But, it was the conqueror that wanted to take the island, and that's how they did it, is that when they all landed on the island, their captain burned the boats. Yeah, because he's like, awesome. We're not going back in our boats. We're going to go take theirs and go back in their boats. And so you didn't have a choice. But, if you were standing there by yourself, you would have been like Tom Hanks with his,
Wilson!
Wilson. But when you have, that's why I like this year. I told him, it's like, this market is going to get ugly and scary. And it's like, we really have to think of ourselves as an army. And when you're in the military and in the army, I never was, but I had friends that were, they always said that camaraderie of having somebody that's in it with you, that will die with you and live it out. And not saying that we're fighting to the death in real estate, but you are for your career. And I know people that, they couldn't hold the discipline and they lost a lot. They lost their homes, they lost their cars, they lost families because they couldn't do the hard work. And so I feel that passionate about it, is like, I don't want to ever see anybody lose those things because they didn't overcome their objections and do the hard work.
Right. I think it's really, the shaking off the tough moments and just saying, hey, tunnel vision, straightforward. That's probably the biggest thing that I've had to overcome. Is understanding that the boats have been burned. Like, it's not like I no longer need to make the choice to burn the boats. The boats have been burned, right? Yeah. Now it's about, okay, now I'm on this island. Now I got to get stuff done. And I'm going to be going through some challenges here. I'm going to really have to fight. But I think there comes this mentality, which is like partly like obsession. Like, you have to get obsessed about it. Like, when I say real estate is a lifestyle for me, it is. It's all that I go to sleep and I wake up and that's what I think about. And obviously, I'm passionate. I love my wife and I love my dogs and I love sports. But at the core of it all is this is more than just a career at this point. It is a lifestyle. And that's why you do the work, is you're passionate about what you are doing. And it's not about an end goal. It's not about a destination. It really isn't. I draw a lot of inspiration from Kobe Bryant. Mm-hmm. It's you say what you will about his past, and he had some rough moments, right? But at his core, who he was as a competitor, he didn't care. He did care about winning championships, but he really didn't care about that. That wasn't his point. His point wasn't to win a championship. His point was the journey. It's all about the journey to get there. That championship would have meant nothing to him without the thousands and thousands of hours alone in the gym, getting shots up before games, after games. That was his thing. And I've drawn inspiration from that. There have been plenty of moments where I have been in this office alone. It's 8:00 on a Friday night. That's great. I love that. I absolutely love that, because I sit there and I go, I'm living it. This is the journey right now. This is the important part. And then it makes the moments where you do realize, the boats have been burned, I'm on the island, and I just won. And it's awesome, right? And it makes those moments feel so much better and so much more powerful, and then it keeps you going. Yeah. So
when you get, sometimes you have to put in, I remember definitely, because when I first bought the company, we were in a space 4 doors down, but it was still storefront. And my desk sat kind of similar to where you could see from the window, because I'll drive by and I'll see, Tim's in the office. But I literally would be down in the office from till like 11, 12 o'clock at night sometimes.
Yeah.
And my friends would drive by on their way. What are you doing there? Are you still in the office? Why
Yeah.
are you doing that? But that was the only way to dig out. Like,
Yes.
because we'd, the market had dumped and this was what I had.
Yes.
But at that time I did not have anybody at home waiting for me. So I'm not telling you to say that.
Right, yeah, no,
you need to go
no,
home to your
yep,
wife.
yep.
Because you will end up alone at the office. Because that is essentially what happened.
Yes.
Is like I let everything else go. But now I've found a little bit better balance in that. But it is also because I put in that sacrifice in the beginning. Like my friends were going out. And I wasn't going with them. They're like, come to the movies, go out, come have a drink with us. And I just didn't.
Yes.
I didn't do any of that stuff. And I was really boring. And I didn't have a lot of friends after a while because they stopped asking.
Yeah.
But then they all wondered why I started having success and they were still in the
Right.
spots that they were.
Right.
Well, I appreciate you sacrificing your time
Yes.
because you
Yeah.
are a busy guy
Anytime.
and coming and doing this because it's I know Cody's one for a long time for you to share and I got to know more about you that I didn't know. And
Sweet. Awesome.
so
Likewise.
I feel like it was very inspiring and hopefully this will inspire others to do all the things that you've been doing to be so successful.
I would love that. Go out there. Go
thank
for
you.
your dream. You have a dream. You absolutely have the fire within you, so go for it.
Love it. All right. Well, we will see you next time.